Hello and welcome to the second LiveG Lookahead on Tuesday the 1st of November 2022 at 5 PM GMT. Very excited for our second meeting. We've got quite a few good discussion points today, as we did last time. So yeah, I'll be talking about them in a bit. So this meeting is being hosted on the LiveG Lookahead channel on our Discord server. It's additionally being streamed onto our YouTube channel, where recording the meeting will also be available after it has finished. Live subtitles are available by watching the stream via our YouTube channel, and as usual, questions and input can be given at any time, and we will aim to address all questions and input at the end of the meeting if we don't address them during discussion. We ask that if you're going to contribute, you must respect the LiveG contributors community rules, which can be found under the rules channel on Discord. And finally, by suggesting ideas, you agree to make those ideas available under the LiveG open source license. Before we start, actually, we'd like to give a warm welcome to Matthew Burton, who is now around on our Discord server as a member of staff. He's not actually in this meeting today. That's because he's on holiday in Spain. Lucky him. But yeah, you should be able to see more of him in the future, which would be nice. And as we did in our last meeting, we should probably introduce ourselves. Tram Crazy, I know you're on. Would you like to introduce yourself? Very good. We got Seb on the stream. Unfortunately his mic is not working, but trust me, he is here. I'll read out any messages that he posts. And finally we've got me, who, as quite a few of you know me by now, I'm kind of the lead developer at LiveG, and yeah, not much else to say. I mean, it's not like we have really too much of a fixed role, each of us in LiveG. Well, onto our agenda. So this week we have managing our community presence, which is a discussion on how we should plan and coordinate our community presence, including on our social media channels. We'll be discussing about what new social medias we've opened up, in addition to ways we can raise funds and how we should grow our supporting community. After that, we have a discussion on our USPs, building products that everyone loves. And that's going to be a talk about some of the ways where you can gain a competitive advantage, against other existing companies that build similar products and services to what we do, and a discussion on how we could improve our strategies while maintaining our standards of like transparency and ethics and that kind of thing. And finally, on our agenda today, we'll have planning the next LiveG showcase, because I know we've not done that in a while. So it's going to basically be an overview of what new developments we should present next in our LiveG showcase video, and a discussion about when and how we should present it, with consideration to some of the previous points that will have been discussed later in this meeting. So I suppose we should make a start. So, with our first point, some of the new social media stuff that we've opened up. We've recently, because Elon Musk bought Twitter, which is kind of a controversial move, we've got a new Mastodon account. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. Mastodon. You'll be able to find us. Well, if you go to our Twitter, you'll be able to see a link to that. For those who don't know what Mastodon is, it's basically a clone of Twitter, which is not owned by Elon Musk. In fact, it's not really owned by anyone as a group per se. It's basically kind of independent servers which connect together in a kind of decentralized network, and been trying out for quite a few days now, and it seems to be pretty cool. And there's a lot of influx of new users onto the platform because of recent events. So yeah, we should be able to keep that up and post stuff kind of around the same time as we post normally on Twitter. So we'll kind of post to both platforms. Donations are also now available on Open Collective. That is a service that we use now, which we recently signed up for, to kind of keep our finances in check, and it basically gives you, as a member of the public or a member of Team LiveG, it gives you kind of a transparent look at what we spend on, where our income's coming from, and that kind of thing, because transparency is kind of one of the core principles which build LiveG. And I've got a question here that I wrote down. Should we share our developments with the Linux phone community, since we don't have a release for them yet? So with the Pine phone, we know that the LiveG Prism, as I discussed last time, is our current prototype is built on a Pine phone, and there's a lot of Pine phone users who are quite potentially interested. I know a few which are already interested in what we've been doing. But you guys, do you think we should kind of open up to the Pine phone community right now, or do you think we should kind of save it until we got something a bit bigger, when we have more of an official release? Wait, sorry, I'm crazy. I just realised that the audio is not working. I think we should probably rectify that before we continue. Do you want to try talking again? Oh no, still not working. Sorry, it all goes wrong. There we go. Okay, try talking now.
Okay, so I think we should definitely get the LiveGOS on the PinePhone platform a bit more, and with the PinePhone community. I think we definitely need to do a pre-compiled build for the PinePhone, because at the moment the only build we have officially available on our website is an ISO for x86, x64 platforms, not ARM platforms like the PinePhone. So I think we do need to do that before we tell the community about it, because lots of people wouldn't want to go through installing G-Shell onto the Mobian backend. So I think we need to do that first.
I think that's a really good point. There's a bit of a source of confusion as to whether our current release works on the PinePhone or just works on x86 computers. So yeah, it's best to get a release for the PinePhone as early as possible. But do you think that we should release it? Once we do make a build, do you think we should release an image in LiveG OS's current state, or do you think we should add more features to make it usable before it gets released?
The thing is, a lot of people, especially where the PinePhone is concerned, really like to be on the bleeding edge. So I think it's a great idea to do it kind of ASAP, not because it's in a state that would be usable as a daily driver, but because people who have PinePhones like messing around, like customizing their stuff and like trying new things, and that would also probably be quite helpful. People might contribute back to LiveG OS itself.
Yeah, good point. I know that they do like trying out things quite early on. Simple things like an update system, we should probably. Do you think we should probably implement before we do that, because then people can receive updates? I know we won't have to implement a phone calling app and all the other apps and things, but do you think we should at least implement like an update system, and possibly network settings, and also the debug screen removal, the removal of the debug screen which pops up as well? Do you think we should kind of do them things before?
Maybe those few things. Did you work out how to disable dev tools or not? Because obviously that completely undermines all of our security mechanisms.
I did work out a way to disable DevTools. I think it might be active, because currently you just have to supply a command line flag to enable DevTools, but people won't be able to do that if they don't have access to the command line. So yeah, that'll be something we need to consider and check over before we release, as well as being able to press Ctrl W and close off the entire thing. That's mainly something which only browsers should do, not operating systems. So that's something we should probably be aware of. But yeah, I think definitely implementing some of the minimum features for it to be viable as a usable operating system, I think that'd be kind of useful. What else did I write down? I wrote, so we could probably, moving on a bit, with our community, do you think we should start building kind of educational content, about how to build apps and things for our products? I think that could probably be a good way of kind of getting the community involved. What kind of things do you think we should do in that kind of space?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we need to get involved in. We can potentially incorporate some of that into Lookahead or LiveG Showcase and other. We were talking before the stream, weren't we, in the pre-show prep, about potential coding live streams and sessions on the LiveG YouTube channel through the Discord server. So I think that kind of stuff is definitely stuff we need to be incorporating, and as well as working on our software, our platforms themselves, also how the community can engage with those platforms and make them better places.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose if we kind of interacting educationally on Discord could be a good way as well. If people want to make a contribution but don't quite know how to make a good contribution yet, we could probably set up like some kind of system where they can connect to a voice channel and share their screen, and we can guide them through that kind of process. That could be another good way of showing educational stuff. I think that's about it on that point. Oh no, I've got one more thing under this. It's quite a big point actually. This agenda item. We could. Oh, I've already mentioned it. Is about doing kind of pair grouping on Discord. Okay, moving on to our second agenda item then. So our unique selling points are something that we need to focus on. That's what USP stands for, unique selling points, for those who don't know. So this is especially in regard with the LiveG Prism, or as Seb puts it. Let me just try and show you this. Yeah, the LiveG Prism actually is a good play on words. Thanks for that, Seb. I think with the LiveG Prism, because our device is quite underpowered compared to, you know, the top of the range iPhones and Android phones, we need to kind of work on what makes our LiveG Prism, as well. This applies to our other products as well that we'll have. What makes our LiveG Prism better than existing smartphones? Have you got any ideas around that? It's quite a big one.
I have got one suggestion. I mean, obviously, most of us here aren't really very big Apple fans, but
Yeah.
something Apple does do well is putting underpowered hardware in phones and making it run very well with well-optimized software.
Certainly.
So, like, even their, well, I'll just quickly have a Google, even their top-of-the-range iPhone 14 Pro Max only has 6 gigs of RAM.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
compared to lots of comparable Android smartphones, many Android smartphones have got 16 or even more gigabytes of RAM. But Apple makes it work, and I think I still run an iPhone 6S as my daily driver, and that only has 3 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah.
And even now, with about 7 years of software updates, it doesn't really feel too sluggish because Apple optimizes their software so well. So if we can do that, then I think will be a good way towards having a stable platform.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It is kind of amazing what they've managed to do with such little hardware specs. Like, when you look at their animations, they're really smooth. I'll admit that they're really smooth in terms of, you know, using the device. I mean, there's a lot that I'd say about Apple which is not good, but I won't go into it in this meeting. But yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, packing the performance out of what we've got is a really critical kind of part of the user experience of things like the LiveG Prism, especially because we're not hoping to spend too much on like the specs of our devices, because we don't want people to not be able to afford it because it's way too expensive, because we need to keep competitive and have good price ranges which are not ridiculous like Apple's price ranges. So yeah, the kind of the performance point is quite critical to our devices doing well, because especially because the Pine phone, of which our prototype is currently based off of, whether or not that'll be true in the future, I doubt it. The Pine phone is known to be quite slow. Launching web browsers and things, it's a bit of a pain. You can't really do it too quickly if you're on the move, as it were. So that's definitely something to focus on. And so far with G Shell's development, I think it's gone quite well in terms of the speed. It's quite responsive. I know there's some sluggish animations which could probably be ironed out by using specs which aren't from like 10 years ago. They could probably be improved by just having a slightly faster processor, but aside from that, I think we're doing well so far on that front, and we just need to keep it up. I think, yes, another point is that for those who have read our website's about page, it kind of gives you a good insight into what we're all about at LiveG and kind of our approach to things. In fact, it's literally under the heading "Our Approach" on the about page. We need to put some of those into practice. So, for example, the point that we're not a $1 trillion tech company who feels a bit faceless. We're a bunch of humans who are trying to make something. We're a small team, and we kind of want to have that kind of human touch to our products. Being friendly and not being a massive corporation. I think people kind of like that, rather than, especially when you hear about things like mailing services, email services, people get blocked from email services. You know, their account becomes deactivated for some stupid arcane reason, and boom, that's their whole livelihood gone, because they can't access their emails to be able to access their other services where they can reset their password and stuff. We don't want to kind of feel like a company who's in the position where we're having to, you know, do that kind of action where we're making people unhappy, really, because that's not good PR. That's not good user experience. It won't help people in the long term. Yet sadly, you know, corporations which have a lot of money seem to be going that way. Not all of them, but for the most popular ones, I'd say, have that kind of potential. And whether or not in the future we'd be like that if we grow really big, I mean, I do hope not, but it's something we have to keep in mind.
And in a way, we just know we won't, because the difference between us and them is that they never went 100% open source.
That is a good point. Yeah.
When you are 100% open source, even if you get really big and you start offering like hosted solutions for your software to make money, and Patreon and all this, well, Open Collective and anything like, and selling like premium versions with more code. But even when you are open source, it's just very difficult to get to a point where it's one billionaire founder or CEO or owner who's in charge of it all and is running wild. Our friend Elon.
Yeah, Elon seems to be quite a good example of all this. Yeah, it's definitely open source is auditable, as it's called. So people can see what we're doing out in the open. Everything that we're doing is so transparent, especially as I mentioned earlier with our finances. Whereas other companies, which are quite popular at the moment, don't have that kind of level of transparency, and that makes it really easy for them to become evil, I suppose.
I was just going to ask, the Open Collective thing, is it like linked to your personal bank account, or have you got a special LiveG account?
Yeah, right now it's connected to a personal bank account, but it would be nice, I suppose, to open a company. It is, I mean, from past experiences, it's a bit of a hassle with all the paperwork and things I've heard. I wasn't the one who did the paperwork, but one of our teammates did that kind of stuff, and it was quite a hassle. And then you can get a bank account via that kind of means. I don't feel like we need to do that just yet, because we're not really making much money at all, really, at the moment. But yeah, it's a really good point. If we open up like an extra bank account, it could divide the money much more easily. Open Collective does help a lot with kind of the ledger aspect, like you can track how much we can spend and stuff. So far that's quite good, but yeah, in the future we might need to rely on opening up a bank account. That's a really good point. So yeah, we with some of our USP kind of stuff, we need some good taglines, basically, especially relating to the LiveG Prism, again because it's such an underpowered, low spec device at the moment. We need good selling points, good taglines, and yeah, that's kind of again linking back to putting our approaches back into practice. As with the community itself, aside from kind of our products, I feel like I should probably get in touch with those who are popular in kind of the tech or the Linux community, so that they can review LiveG OS on their devices, as we talked about earlier with the Pine phone. The sooner we can get a release for them, the better. But from what I've seen, there's a lot of people who like to try out kind of various operating systems, especially for their Pine phones. It's actually a good way of building that kind of reputation that we're doing something quite important. I think might have mentioned in the last meeting, there's a project called Capilun. They're doing a very similar thing to us, which is a web-based operating system for the Pine phone and other devices that uses Firefox OS as its base. They've become really popular, and I admire their popularity, and we'd like to kind of see that translate to LiveG as well. If we can build like a good fan base, especially with our hashtag Team LiveG. So yeah, I think that's about it on the USP front. Again, quite a big point. But moving on to the next point, our final point this afternoon is planning the next LiveG showcase. So I think it's been about 2 months since the last LiveG showcase. So yeah, we have to think of things that we need to add to our video. Basically, I know that since the last LiveG showcase, I don't think we've done as much. I suppose life has got in the way a bit, but also because we've been building quite a lot of behind the scenes kind of stuff as well. Especially with the settings app, there's been a few additions with networking and I think it's to do with keyboard input as well. So present them. Also maybe presenting some of our supporting projects that I went through last time, such as typeset engine and formulaic. I think that could be quite good for the next video. Maybe not spend too much on those points. But yeah, I suppose we could always defer LiveG Showcase a bit if we need more things to be added for it to become a worthwhile video. Because at this rate, we're going to produce so many videos which are not of kind of good value to the community and those who are interested. So, what do you think? Do you think we should defer, or do you think we should release a LiveG Showcase video really soon?
Well, I think with the fact that we're doing these lookaheads, I think we don't need to do as many showcases, because these lookaheads are quite good for just regular updates. But it just depends whether we've got any major stuff, because the last couple of showcases have been with kind of major updates. So maybe we could do a big one when we do our first build for the Pine phone. But other than that, unless there are major updates, then I don't think we necessarily need to have a regular schedule with the showcases.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we've got quite a few videos now, especially with the introduction of LiveG Lookahead. Yeah, I think we could probably defer LiveG Showcase until we have a Pine phone build, because that'll be quite a good monumental point to be able to kind of explode in the community. And if we can time that just right with releasing LiveG Showcase, I think that'd be quite a good thing. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we explode, but so it's not too much. In reality, I don't think we'll explode too much, but I think it'd be nice to get a few people kind of interested, even if it's just like 1 or 2 people. It'd be good just to know like how much potential we'd get from doing that, and yeah, we should probably defer LiveG Showcase until then. Maybe we should probably plan a to-do list of kind of possibly network settings, because otherwise you won't be able to connect to the network and kind of do the useful things with web apps. Also the update system, that's got a key one for people not to have to flash an SD card every time you make a release, because that would be pretty annoying. And especially because the earlier we implement an update system, the better. So we can incorporate that into kind of our workflow. I think that'd be good. And also remove the debug screen that you see in LiveG OS at the moment. As soon as you dismiss the lock screen, I think that'd be good. Moving some of the debug settings into the actual settings app. And finally, before we release LiveG Showcase, we need to get multi-platform builds working. So, what do you think should be a priority? Do you think network settings, or update, or multi-platform? I know that we've been doing some network stuff quite recently.
I think that really we do need to get it working on the Pine phone and other platforms, because that was kind of where you had the first idea for DuShell, wasn't it? When you started it last year, was with your Pine phone that you just got. But also, I think with the builds, we need to think about automated build workflows rather than you doing it manually every time, like with GitHub Actions or something like that, so that we can have our releases done all for us. in the cloud. Well, not necessarily in the cloud if we don't like the cloud, but just something like GitHub Actions so that we can some kind of continuous integration.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good idea. I mean, currently it is quite reproducible. Like we can replicate the same build again and again. But yeah, if we could just kind of, I don't know, maybe make like nightly builds or something, ones which come every night. I think that'd be quite good. Or that kind of thing. I know that I think GitHub Actions is free for open source stuff, which is nice of them to do that. I mean, we use it for building our documentation search index at the moment, which works quite well. Builds every day. But yeah, I think definitely PinePhone releases. Maybe also Raspberry Pi. Do you think, or do you think we should kind of launch to the Raspberry Pi community later than the PinePhone?
I think Raspberry Pi is definitely something that we should focus on.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe actually releasing to Raspberry Pi and PinePhone at the same time could work quite well to kind of bring everyone together. And we get a lot of publicity then.
Yeah, and then what we can
go on.
What we can do is we can stage a ridiculous mock Apple event. If you've seen any Apple events,
Yeah.
we can do a ridiculous mock one with you filming yourself in some funny, like fancy-looking scenes in London announcing the LiveG releases, and it'll be really funny.
It'd be cool to do like a proper big budget kind of thing. Well, I say big budget, but I mean like less than £100. I don't think you can really reach that kind of budget level of like millions yet.
I don't even mean it has to cost us any money. I just mean
Yeah.
edit it well and stuff and make it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Make it
Something-
look like a really professional, cool thing. Like, I don't know, you walking into camera and sitting on a bench in a London park or something. I don't know.
Maybe using the LiveG Prism.
Yeah, just something that looks cool. To announce the build for the PinePhone and Raspberry Pi, just to hype it up massively.
I think that would be pretty cool, especially because there's a lot of tech blogs and people. I know we've been mentioned in, I think it's called Linux on Mobile. I can't remember the name exactly, but they report on Linux on smartphones and things, and they did briefly mention the LiveG Prism kind of PinePhone mod, I suppose. But I think there's a lot of people we can appeal to who write kind of articles. You know, we've got the Raspberry Pi community who write a lot of articles. I think like Tom's Hardware and Hackaday, like that kind of thing. And then the PinePhone world, which is more kind of conventional Linux on desktops, but also on smartphones. I think they'd like that, and also the union between the two as well. I think we could get quite a bit of good publicity from that. So yeah, I think that's it in terms of our agenda. If you've got any questions or input, then you're welcome to leave them in the Lookahead channel on Discord, or via the live chat feature of YouTube, which I'll quickly check now. Looks like we're all good on that. So yeah, that concludes today's episode of LiveG Lookahead. Been quite a long meeting today, hasn't it, compared to our last one? Still a good length. Our next meeting is scheduled on Tuesday the 15th of November 2022 at 5 PM GMT, and that's because I'm away next week. I'm going to be elsewhere, and I won't be able to stream then, but I'll see you the week after. But you can rewatch this meeting via the recording on our YouTube channel, and that will be made available shortly. But until then, thank you for attending, have a good evening, and have a good bonfire night on the 5th.